story of Michael Bisping Part 3. The first loss and a new beginning. The victory over Matt Hamill had come at a high price. Michael Bisping was still undefeated, but in the eyes of many fans, especially in America, his perfect record was a lie. The boos were growing louder than the cheers. He was no longer just a confident British fighter. He was a villain, the man who had been gifted a win. Bisping, with his defiant personality, leaned into the role. He felt he had won the fight and he did not care what anyone else thought. He was 14 wins and 0 losses, and in his mind he was the best in the world. The UFC, however, knew that this controversy needed to be settled. He needed a new test, a fight so big and so clear that there would be no doubt. They found the perfect opponent, Suga Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans was, in many ways, Bisping's American counterpart. He was also a winner of The Ultimate Fighter, but from Season 2. He was a phenomenal wrestler, incredibly fast, and like Bisping, had a perfect, undefeated record. This was a fight the UFC had wanted for a long time. It was a clash of two undefeated stars, two reality show winners, and two men with completely opposite personalities. Bisping was the loud, arrogant striker. Evans was the quiet, powerful, and explosively athletic wrestler. The fight was set for November 17, 2007 at UFC 78. It was a massive opportunity for Bisping. This was his first time headlining a UFC event, the main attraction of the night. He was fighting in America, a chance to silence the critics on their own soil. But there was a problem that Bisping himself was only beginning to understand. He was fighting in the light heavyweight division, a class for fighters weighing up to 205 pounds. Bisping was a big man, but he was not a true 205-pound fighter. He was walking around at a weight that was not much higher than the limit. As he would admit years later, he was malnourished and overtraining. He was not cutting weight. He was simply showing up as he was, while his opponents, like Evans, were cutting down from 220 or 230 pounds. This meant that on fight night, Bisping was giving up a huge amount of size and, more importantly, raw power. But at the time, his pride would not let him see this. He believed his skill was enough to overcome any physical disadvantage. The night of the fight, the tension was thick. Bisping entered the arena to a storm of boos, just as he expected. He soaked it in, raising his hands, a defiant smile on his face. Evans entered as the hero, the man who would finally put the loudmouth Brit in his place. The first round began, and Bisping's plan was clear. He had to use his sharp, technical kickboxing. He had to stay on his feet. He used his long jab and quick footwork to keep Evans at a distance, trying to score points and frustrate the wrestler. He landed good kicks and clean punches. Bisping, to the surprise of many, looked like the better striker. He won the first round. In the second round, Rashad Evans changed his strategy. He stopped trying to box with the boxer. He went to his strength. He ducked under Bisping's punches and drove forward with a powerful takedown, slamming Bisping to the canvas. For the rest of the round, Bisping was trapped. He was fighting off his back, trying to defend against Evans's heavy ground and pound. Bisping was tough. He did not take much damage, but he was being controlled. He was losing the round, and he was losing his energy, carrying the weight of a much larger man. The third and final round would decide everything. Bisping knew he needed to keep the fight standing. Evans knew he needed one more takedown. They met in the center of the cage. Bisping tried to find his range, but Evans was too fast. He shot in again, and again Bisping's back hit the mat. The crowd roared. Bisping fought desperately to get up, but Evans was like a wet blanket, smothering him, controlling him, and landing small, scoring punches. The final bell rang with Bisping on his back. Looking up at the lights, frustration and exhaustion on his face. He had lost. He knew it. The announcer, Bruce Buffer, read the judges' scorecards. One judge had scored the fight 29-28 for Bisping, likely for his striking in the first round. But the other two judges had seen it differently. They scored it 29-28 for Rashad Evans. It was a split decision, but it was a clear loss. Michael Bisping's perfect record was gone. The 0 in his loss column had been replaced by a 1. He stood in the cage and listened as Evans was interviewed, the crowd cheering his first ever defeat. He was professional in the loss, shaking his opponent's hand. But inside, he was devastated. Everything he had built, the identity of the undefeated champion, was shattered in the days and weeks after the fight. Bisping had to face a hard truth. It was not just Rashad Evans who had beaten him. It was physics. It was size. He could not keep fighting men who were naturally 20 pounds heavier than him. He was a great fighter, but he was in the wrong division. He made the most important decision of his career. He would stop starving himself to stay lean and would instead start a difficult, draining 20-pound weight cut. He was going to drop down to a new weight class, middleweight, 185 pounds. This was a massive gamble. He would have to change his entire diet and training. He would be starting from the bottom of a new division, full of fast, dangerous, and technical fighters. But Bisping knew it was the only way. He was not just a light heavyweight who had lost a fight. He was a new man. He was a true middleweight, and he was about to start a new climb, one that would lead him directly into a rivalry that would define his life and end in one of the most brutal knockouts in UFC history.